Welcome back to the presentations on strategic management. My name is Osman Siret. Previously, we talked about the strategic management process, strategic intent, organization, environmental analysis, and strategy formulation. This presentation focuses on strategy implementation and control and strategy evaluation. You are reminded that your knowledge on strategic management must be integrated and that the different sections all have a bearing on each other. Strategy implementation is an action-oriented, operations-driven activity aimed at shaping performance of core business activities in a strategy-supportive manner. It is tougher and more time-consuming than crafting a strategy. The tasks of strategy implementation relate mainly to improving efficiency of the strategy being executed and showing measurable progress towards achieving targeted results. Strategy implementation is the process that turns the strategic plans into a series of action tasks and ensures that these tasks are executed in such a way that the objectives of the organization are achieved. Strategy implementation differs from strategy formulation in several ways. Firstly, strategy formulation is an intellectual or thinking phase, while implementation is the phase where these thoughts are operationalized and turned into action. Secondly, formulation is mostly a market-driven activity with an external focus, whereas strategy implementation is an internal, operations-driven activity. Another difference between these two phases is evident in the required skills. Strategy formulation requires intuitive and analytical skills, while implementation requires motivation and leadership skills. Organizations often experience problems when attempting to implement their chosen strategies. We refer to these as barriers to strategy implementation. Some of these problems include ineffective coordination of implementation efforts, inadequate leadership and direction provided by managers, the goals not being sufficiently defined, the goals not being well understood by employees, the formulators of strategy not involved in the implementation, and finally, changes in the responsibilities of the employees are not clearly defined. Strategy implementation is therefore the phase in which management aligns or matches leadership, culture, structures, reward systems, and resource allocations with the chosen strategy. These are often referred to as the drivers of strategy implementation. If we examine each of these drivers, firstly, strategic leadership involves managing through others and influencing human behavior in order to achieve goals. The key responsibilities of a strategic leader are to develop an appropriate vision or strategic direction, to communicate this vision and strategic direction to all employees, to ensure and motivate the employees to achieve the objectives, and to design appropriate reward systems and structures that will facilitate strategy implementation. And finally, to develop and maintain an effective organizational culture. Leadership thus drives strategic change, and strong leadership is an important tool to give direction and purpose to integrated strategy, formulation, implementation, and control. Next, every organization has its unique culture. The character of a company's culture or work climate is made up of its core values and business principles that executives adopt, the standards of what is ethical or not, the operating business practices, and the behaviors that define, literally, how we do things around here. The company's approach to people management, the chemistry and personality that exist in the work environment, and the stories that get told repeatedly illustrate and reinforce these values, business practices, policies, and traditions. Culture is thus the melting together of stated beliefs, business principles, styles of operating, ingrained behaviors and attitudes, and work climate. and this is a crucial driver of strategy implementation. A culture that is well aligned with strategy enhances a company's strategy execution in two ways. Firstly, the culture that encourages actions supportive of good strategy execution not only provide company personnel with clear guidance regarding what behaviors and results from good job performance, but also produces significant peer pressure from co-workers to conform to these acceptable norms. And secondly, a culture that is surrounded with value and behaviors that assist strategy execution promotes strong employee identification and commitment to the vision, performance target, and strategy of the organization. Another way of ensuring that specific strategy supportive tasks are performed is through the establishment of reward systems. Reward systems can be defined as the umbrella term for the different components considered in performance evaluation and the assignment of monetary and non-monetary rewards to them. Organizational structure can also be a source of competitive advantage if designed in such a way that it is aligned with the chosen strategy, that it is functional, and it makes easy for customers to do business with the organization. An effective structure forms the stable base on which the organization can build its strategy implementation efforts. The concept that structure follows strategy emphasizes that a change in strategy necessitates a change in structure. In the absence of a fit between strategy and structure, an organization's performance will decline. It will experience administrative problems, resource and allocation problems, and conflicting priorities regarding the tasks of strategy implementation. 3 questions can be used to test the qualities of one strategy from another and distinguish a winning strategy from a poor or mediocre strategy. Firstly, how well does the strategy fit the company's situation? To be a winning strategy, it has to be well matched to the industry and competitive conditions, the market opportunities and threats, and many other aspects that will influence the external environment, while at the same time being tailored to the company's own resource strengths and weaknesses, competencies and capabilities. Unless a strategy fits tightly with both the internal and external aspects of an organization, it is not likely to produce the optimal outcomes. Secondly, is the strategy helping the company to achieve a sustainable competitive advantage? A winning strategy allows the company to achieve competitive advantage that is durable and sustainable and cannot be easily imitated by rival firms. The bigger and more sustainable this advantage, the more appealing the strategy. And finally, is the strategy resulting in better company performance? A winning strategy enhances company performance, and these will include gains in profitability and financial performance, as well as gains in competitive strength and market standing. The traditional approach to strategic control is sequential. Firstly, strategies are formulated and goals are set. Then, strategies are implemented, and thirdly, performance is measured against the predetermined goal set. Control is based on a feedback loop from performance measurement to strategy formulation. This process may involve lengthy time lags, often linked to the planning cycle of the organization. This single loop approach is appropriate when the environment is stable and objectives can be measured with a high level of certainty. A more contemporary approach to strategic control integrates adapting to and anticipating both internal and external environment change. The relationships between strategy formulation, strategy implementation, and strategic control are highly interactive. Informational control is primarily concerned with whether or not the organization is doing the right things. In other words, is it effective? Informational control is a method of organizational control in which the organization gathers and analyzes information from the internal and external environment in order to obtain the best fit between the goals of the organization and the strategic environment. Information control is part of an ongoing process of organizational learning that continuously updates and challenges the assumptions that underlie the strategy of an organization. In such double-loop learning, the organization's assumptions, premises, goals, and strategies are continuously monitored, tested, and reviewed. The obvious benefits are that time lags are shortened, changes in the environment are detected earlier, and the ability of the organization to respond with speed and flexibility is enhanced. Behavioral control, on the other hand, asks if the organization is doing things right in the implementation of its strategy. Behavioral control is a method of organizational control in which the organization influences the actions of employees through culture and rewards. Where there are strong and positive culture and rewards, employees tend to internalize the strategies and objectives of the organization. Finally, the strategic management process results in decisions that can have significant, long-lasting consequences. Erroneous strategic decisions can inflict penalties and can be difficult to reverse. Strategy evaluation is thus vital to the well-being of an organization because timely evaluations can alert management to problems or potential problems before the situation becomes critical. Strategy evaluation includes 3 basic activities: examining the underlying bases of the strategy of the organization, comparing the expected results with actual results, and taking corrective action to ensure that performance conforms to plan. 3 evaluation criteria are suitability, which is concerned with assessing whether the strategy addresses the key issues relating to the opportunities and constraints faced by the organization. Acceptability, this is concerned with whether the expected performance outcomes of a proposed strategy meet the expectation of stakeholders. And finally, feasibility, which is concerned with whether a strategy could work in practice. A further 4 criteria could be used to evaluate a strategy. Consistency, that is, a strategy should not present inconsistent goals and policies. Consonance, which refers to the need to examine trends in evaluating strategies. Feasibility, a strategy must neither overtax the resources nor create unsolvable problems. And finally, advantage. A strategy must provide for the creation of maintenance of a competitive advantage in a selected area of activity. Consonance and advantage are mostly based on an organization's external assessment, whereas consistency and feasibility are largely based on an internal assessment. I trust that you have enjoyed this journey into strategic management. Remember, the key to understanding the content of this module is to thoroughly read the various chapters and see the links between them. The main objective of this is to critically apply the concepts of strategy and strategic management. Thank you.